everyone. I'm Victor Rodriguez, Operation Director of Kaizen Institute North America, and I will be moderating today's roundtable discussion on lean methodologies and continuous improvement. In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, continuous improvement is essential for organizational success. And this roundtable provides a platform for our panelists that are joining us today, Sameh, Kelly, and David, to discuss the challenges, successes, and future trends in lean methodology. We aim to explore how organizations are leveraging lean principles to streamline processes, enhance performance, and foster a culture of continuous improvement. Let's dive into the discussion and learn from our panelists' expertise. So could each panelist please introduce themselves and their role in driving continuous improvement within their respective organization and share a bit of your experience? Maybe Sameh, you can start if you want.
Thank you, Victor. So please go ahead and call me Sam. It will be easier. So my name is Sam. I am Continuous Improvement Director at Delpharm in Montreal for over 3.5 years. I'm an industrial engineer. I've had over 12 years experience in continuous improvement. I've worked in continuous improvement across multiple industries, ranging from pharmaceutical, biomedical, aerospace, oil and gas, and IT. So I am definitely passionate about continuous improvement, and I firmly believe that it can be applied across all different industries, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Sam. Kelly, you can go next.
Thank you, Victor. Nice to meet you, Sam. My name is Kelly McKinnon, and I'm the Lean and TPM lead in the Global Center of Excellence for Manufacturing within our lubricants supply chain in Shell. I have 18 years experience in Shell, all in continuous improvement directed at end-to-end supply chain value realization, and specifically in manufacturing. And prior to joining Shell, I worked in continuous improvement with DuPont, and I started there in Six Sigma. And as Sam said, I think continuous improvement underpins business performance and realizing value in the supply chain. And I look forward to the panel discussion today.
Thank you, Kelly. David, you can introduce yourself.
Hey. Thank you, Victor. So good morning, everyone. My name is David Caballero. I've been with Kohler for the last years. I'm currently the Lean Capabilities Director for the organization, supporting all of our manufacturing sites. And for those who don't know, Kohler also owns golf courses, hotels, even a chocolate factory. So we also support those businesses. Prior to joining Kohler, I worked for John Deere for a couple of years in Mexico, and then before that with GE for a few years. Before coming to Kohler, I worked in manufacturing pretty much all the time. Now with this role in Kohler, it's more of a corporate role where I support the execution and the deployment of the Lean programs globally.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. First topic. So we are going to talk about challenges and opportunities. So as organizations strive to streamline processes and enhance performance, they often encounter various challenges and opportunities along the way. So what are some of the key challenges and opportunities you have encountered in implementing lean practices? And David, maybe you can share your insights.
Good. Yes. Definitely, even after, I've been working on Lean for the last 15 years. Still resistance to change is something that, I think we struggle with. It is sometimes hard for people, or it's hard to explain the what's in it for me in some cases, right? We keep reporting record-breaking years, year after year, right? And yet we ask from our teams to behave and perform differently sometimes. So sometimes that resistance to change is one of the biggest challenges we run into. But I truly believe that as leaders, once we help teams understand why we need to be more agile, more flexible, we can actually start outperforming some of our customers and competitors. We can actually help them understand why is it that we want to improve and start, changing the way we do things.
Good. Thank you, David. Kelly, how about you?
Well, I have to echo a lot of what David shared. I think resistance to change is at the top of the list, especially I think people search to find context and meaning in what you're trying to deploy. And so sometimes even the terminology of lean can turn people off. We need to make sure that it's understandable, it's relatable, and making sure that people can see that this is a mechanism to make their life simpler, to be able to perform easier and better. In a more standard and disciplined way. And once we get through some of those barriers, I think it's much easier for the organization to embrace lean and continuous improvement methodologies.
Good. Thank you. Sam, what about you?
Well, resistance to change is definitely a classic one, as David and Kelly mentioned. So another one that I'd like to add is the lack of support from senior management. So that is definitely one that if you don't have, it will make your lean journey more complex and tedious. I learned an expression a couple of years back called pushing jello. So when you don't have the support from senior management, it's like pushing jello, which is technically impossible to do.
Yeah, I agree. And with what Kelly was saying, I think you hit it on the head. Sometimes we misuse the word lean, and unfortunately in business, we've seen examples of reductions in workforce, and those are directly tied to lean in a lot of cases, which end up, removing the trust from associates and pretty much eliminating engagement. So yeah, I'm glad you guys mentioned those as well.
I think an excellent point by Sam as well on the pushing jello concept, because from a leadership perspective, oftentimes they want to know, or we all want to know, what's the value, and it's sometimes difficult to quantify exactly what that is when you're trying to build a culture of performance. You can't always relate every initiative to a dollar value. And so trying to ensure that we stay aligned on what the overall purpose is and the driving of the cultural aspect of lean is really key from a leadership buy-in perspective.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your insights. So we want to talk today also about some good success stories that you have. So despite of these challenges about resistance to change and this lack of support of the senior managers, so how the lean initiatives have achieved significant successes for many organizations. So can you share a specific lean success story or project that had a significant impact? Sam, you can provide an example if you want.
Well, definitely. I mean, one that I'd like to refer to is the implementation of a daily management system at our site in Delpharm, Montreal. So it took some time. Obviously, when you're trying to implement such a structure with rigor and discipline and rigorous meetings, in the beginning, there's a lot of resistance to change. And as you start slowly deploying, the tier 3, then the tier 2, and move across the levels of your tier meetings, then this structure becomes the way to work. And at a certain point, once people are so used to it, if you try to remove it, they cannot go back to not having that structure and that daily management system. So we implemented that at our site at Delpharm, Montreal, and I think it is now a core aspect of our daily operations, of how we run our operations. And last year we had a record year in terms of revenue, sales, and so on. So I believe there's a strong correlation between that implementation and the success that we had in our last fiscal year.
Without doubt. Yeah. Thank you. Kelly, how about you?
I think we've had many successes, but one that comes to mind that's really been impactful to our operations is our single-minute exchange of die initiative. We've rolled out to many of our manufacturing plants. We started with 7 different pilot plants of the 38 that we have total within our network. And we were able to achieve about a 50% reduction in changeover time, which has allowed those different asset assets to be able to realize a lot of different benefits, from lowering their shift costs to being able to redeploy people into training and development that was much needed, or to be able to do more preventative maintenance work. And to improve the overall asset, as well as repatriating volume to fill that capacity that we make outside at Tollers presently.
Good. And I mean, is this a sustainable process? Are you still in this level of change over times?
Yes, we are. It has been sustainable, and it's been very much frontline driven. So it is something that makes their life a lot easier when you're in a transition and not running. It's definitely harder work for the operations team and the maintenance team. And so if you can eliminate some of that, there's a lot of value and buy-in from the organization. And so, yes,
Great.
we have been able to maintain it.
Great, great, great. Good. David, and from your side?
So I'm lucky I had a little bit of time to think about this. So I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to go back to about 12 years ago. The company that I was with at the time, we were in the process of transforming the operation. It was a site in Mexico. Of course, we didn't have enough resources to do it as fast as we wanted to. And the top leadership team of the plant came together and designed a full summer intern program. Now, today it's known as the Lean Challenge, which is basically a summer camp for students. And it works around a competition amongst universities. So universities send, 3-4 teams, 5 people on each, and these teams are coached by local leaders. The first 2 weeks, they're trained, and then they're set up with the specific projects, specific targets and deliverables. Every week they're there. It's treated as a CI or Lean event. So at the end of the week, they're reporting to the top management of the site. These helped a couple of things. First of all, it helped us to get things moving faster, where we wanted. At the same time, it helped us to actually outreach more associates on the floor, which actually helped us increase the speed to change the culture. And some of the tangible results that we got over 1,800 days without recordable accidents or incidents, with reductions of 20% year over year for 3 years in a row, labor productivity double digits 3 years in a row. So the results are there. It's just also about investing in the talent. Like you guys said earlier, buying from senior leadership, that's critical. That's super important. And I think one of the biggest things that we gained from that at the time was a very strong pipeline of talent. So imagine having the opportunity of pretty much interviewing, hands-on, like 20 plus students in a summer. So you're able to handpick the best of the best, right? That was critical for us also in developing our talent when it came to, manufacturing operations. So that's the one that came to mind,
It's a really good one. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Okay, so next topic that we can cover today. We can talk about employee engagement, right? Because we are talking about, this success story. We were talking about daily management, sometimes this lack of support. So I think that this is one of the topics that is always good to talk, okay? So engaging employees at all the levels is essential for the success of Lean initiatives. Let's hear from you, what is your experience about this? So how do you foster employee engagement and participation in Lean initiatives across different levels? So David, what are your strategies?
So first of all, I like to think of it as engaging hearts and minds. Engaging their hands could be easier, right? Because you can always, ask for help, tell people what to do. But once you engage their hearts, their minds, you have their passion and you have their ideas. And I think that's when truly engagement happens. Yeah. Something that I usually like to do is, we have those silent leaders in our facilities. And it could be management, it could be our hourly associates, but those silent leaders have influence over a lot of people in the organization. and very rarely we address those, right? I think when we gain those silent leaders, we're gonna be able to engage a lot of our associates. The other thing is, sometimes those people that push back, when you gain those people, you start seeing how other people might start thinking differently because they think now, oh, so-and-so now bought in, so I'm going to do it as well. So that's some of the things that I usually focus on.
Great. Thank you, David. So Sam, how do you approach this?
Well, I typically like to say, okay, well, let's start with a topic, for example. What's workplace organization? And I'd like to start with the open question, team, what's the pain? How do you feel about it? And then typically that's when you're going to start hearing all the issues that you're going to have with workplace organization. And as soon as I've captured that current state, I'm going to call, what I like to move forward with is typically a game or something that you engage the people to show them that, workplace organization, typical game we have is the 6S numbers game or the 5S number game, where you have, the numbers 1 to 99 and you have to sort them out. And so they start and you ask them, you have 30 seconds and you have to circle the numbers 1 to 49. And in the first step, you have that full page, the paper's a mess, you have numbers 1 to 99 on there, and no one is able to do the assignment. And then if you go through the steps of the 5S, and at the end, you're able to circle numbers 1 to 49 in like 4 seconds. So once they play that game, they're always able to relate their pain and the methodology to how it helps them achieve what they want on the shop floor. And then you start your work with the team. So I find including a simple game to understand or a simple fun activity linked to what you're trying to achieve always definitely makes things easier, and it lightens the mood of the Kaizen event that you're trying to have.
Yeah, I love that kind of simulations because always produce this wow moment that they are going to remember forever. So yeah, exactly. I think that is the perfect way. Good. Thank you. Kelly, what about you?
I echo again, David and Sam brought up some great examples, and it really begins with involvement of everybody. Everybody contributes to a successful organization, and it's for people, it's to enlighten people by listening and engaging them to see what are their pain points and how can we resolve them collectively. I think that really motivates people to see what's in it for them. They understand the why or the greater purpose behind what you're trying to do, and to use tools like Sam articulated, really help people to see it in real life terms in a fun way, which really is very effective. Take it out of the work environment to make it into something that they can all relate to, and that is easily translated back into the work. A very effective way to do that.
Great. Good. As Kaizen, we always said that to have a success in an implementation of a program, you need 3 things. Okay, the first one is leadership engagement. The second one is leadership engagement, and the third one is leadership engagement. So I think that is, yeah.
Sounds like music to my ears.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
And it's not always easy, but it's a challenge. Okay, good. So next topic, continuous improvement culture. Okay, so building and sustaining a culture of continuous improvement is fundamental for the long-term success of Lean initiatives. So what steps have you taken to build and sustain a culture of continuous improvement? Sam, you can start.
So definitely, I typically like to start with the fundamentals. So a solid daily management process with some visual management on the shop floor and on the site. That for me is key. Followed by, I would say, a training on the 7 or 8 wastes, as you'd like to refer to them. So people need to be able to identify waste and see it in their everyday operations. So now, if you mix those 2 things with some basic 5S to have a workplace organization that is nice and clean, some standardized work where it's applicable, you start to have the foundations to build on that. So this, what it allows you to do is that you're able to see the gap to your standard through the visual management that you have in place, through the daily management system that is there. And once that's in place, you need to allow people a methodology to start problem solving, because now you're seeing that things aren't working because there's a gap to the standards. You put the system in place to see it. But the second phase, I would say, problem solving methodology that is standardized and integrated with your daily management system. So once you have those two elements, you're really able to see when things aren't going well, and you're able to take the problem solving methodology to address it. So that will sort of take care of your day-to-day operations. And I would say the third aspect that I see that is very, very important is a process to follow and to drive the improvement and breakthrough projects that you're trying to have. So that is sort of your transformation that you're trying to bring to the site with the organization, but it needs to be managed in a stable process across a PMO or across a structure that is, disciplined and rigorous, and it allows you to have those results. So if you put those three aspects in place, you can manage your day-to-day operations, people can problem solve, and you have a structure to follow your big project, your transformational project and improvement projects. You can have a solid foundation that you're able to move the site to the next level. And obviously it goes with training and training and training. That goes without saying that people need to be engaged, leaders need to be engaged. So what I talked about is more the methodology, but the essence of people engagement always stays very important across the transformation.
Good. And is it possible to do in parallel, or what is your recommendation? Is to start with one of them, or?
I'm not a big fan of in parallel, and explain why. So as you start, if you want to start problem solving, well, that's great, but you need something to tell you what you're going to problem solve. So you need some sort of a basic of when things are going right and when things are not, and that's visual management. If you want to start, a basic 5S, but you don't have standardized work, you don't have standardized areas that you need to mark, you're going to do it and it's going to die through. So if you're doing a 5S project, typically what I'd like to do is, let's say, tie it down, the control phase of it, to your daily management system, so you're able to sustain it. So I find that if you try to do it in parallel, sometimes you get a big boost, but it dies through. Whether when you have that foundational structure, you have pillars that you can always tie down to keep the progress alive and well, way after you leave the organization, because the processes are alive.
Good. Thank you, Sam. So, David, how do you sustain this culture of continuous improvement?
So yeah, I don't want to echo a lot of what Sam mentioned, because he did a very thorough explanation. But I think what I want to deep a little bit more is on the leadership side. I do believe that everything revolves around leadership, and I think about three practices that I personally like to follow. So one is making sure that we're communicating transparently, aligning priorities, and clear expectations. I think when we do that, teams understand what they're going to be measured on. Teams understand what they're going to be driving towards to. The other one, and this echoes a little bit of what Sam said, developing the teams that support us and that we support. I think that's critical, right? We have to intentionally develop our teams. The other one is a very strong focus on systems and processes. I do believe that in a lot of cases, processes and systems lack pre-specifications, standards. It could be that they're not understood by the teams, which end up allowing associates and associates creating workarounds, which may result in mistakes, defects, rework, or even accidents, right? So I do believe that as leaders, if we focus on those three things, will help to sustain and build a truly, CI lean culture.
Good. David, how do you align these priorities to the whole organization?
It is extremely difficult, as we all know, right? Because we do think, we have cascading processes. We use X matrix, we use Hoshin Kanri. So there are tools out there, methodologies that do help us do this consistently. However, I'm going to go back to, it's a leadership decision, because in a lot of cases, we jump to the first fire we see in the morning. And I think we have to stay focused on what the true north is, right? Yes, we may have to react in some cases, but let's not deviate. Let's make sure that we have insight. Where is it that we're trying to go? And allocate the resources where we need to. In a lot of cases, I do believe that a lot of companies and a lot of teams, we suffer of still optimizing teams and areas that are running well, just because we keep getting better when we have big fires that actually will help us get to our true north. But that resource allocation, the prioritization exercises, I think those are exercises and things we need to drive towards as leaders.
A few concepts I would add to that are, I think, just to touch on some of the brilliant basics that Sam really explicitly laid out, but celebrating successes is a key part of it. I think another element that wasn't touched on is when you're trying to make change, start small, integrate it, and then take your next steps. And use your plan, do, check, and adjust cycle to continuously cycle through and look back at what worked well and what do you need to continuously improve. And all the while, involve people, listen, get the feedback, and make sure that you're continually upskilling as you go to enable the potential of your people. And that way they feel motivated to do more, to be more involved, and the results, really will reflect that.
The other thing that I kept thinking as I was hearing you, Kelly, is, we all work, in global environments, right? And what I usually tell our plants in different regions is everybody's dealing with the same problems. But still, we like to fix it ourselves. I mean, we start getting the ball rolling in terms of best practice sharing globally and regionally, but still we're fairly slow, and we're still learning through that process. I think that's another big opportunity, and that will definitely help spread the culture across regions and industries within our companies.
It's funny that you say that, David. I was just at a conference last week with my colleagues from different sites. And, we have sites across France, Italy, Canada, and definitely different geographical locations. But when we meet up for those 2 days, it feels like the problems are exactly the same. We're tackling the same project. We're facing the same issues. So it's definitely a good point that you're touching here, that the problems are more or less the same across the whole globe.
Totally agree.
And I think that multinational companies don't realize what is the potential if they start to share these best practices between the different factories, for example, in the different locations. Because, for sure, there are a few things that you will need to customize, because each team and its facility is going to be completely different than the other. But there are some best practices that, we don't need to think about how to do this process from scratch if there is some knowledge in the house and we know what are the best practices. But sometimes we don't have this mindset, I think. But it's okay. Thank you. Okay. Now we are going to talk about future trends. Okay, we are always looking ahead the landscape of lean and continuous improvement, because it's constantly evolving. So what do you see as the future trends or emerging challenges in lean and continuous improvement based on your experience? So could you provide some insights on this? David, you can start.
Sure. I definitely see. We know AI is just going to keep growing and driving, more of our activities and tasks. Something that I have been working on, lately is the introduction of VR for lean trainings. Right now, we're still in an exploratory phase, but I think that's something that, might be able to help us in the future. Something that I have experienced and worked with over the past couple of years, also 3D printing. We're talking about best practice sharing. And I think that's a technology that we have not leveraged as we would like to. But being able to, send fixtures and jigs to 3D printers globally in real time, every time, we change something or a standard change, something. But I see those trends. We started trying also with the use of drones following people in our warehouses. I think that's something that, probably will grow in the future. Today, we're still limited with batteries and those type of things. But I think as these get more efficient, I think those are probably the tools that we'll be able to use in the future.
That's great. I think that you are starting to talk about Industry 10.0. That's incredible. That's incredible, the future. Kelly, what about you? How do you see the future trends?
I agree with David. I think the digital and robotic space, for example, is something that I see a lot of future for, and we haven't figured it all out yet, but there's many different areas that I think we can use some of that technology to be more efficient, to eliminate some of the waste that we have, especially a lot of the manual work in the area of safety. For example, we found a lot of robotic solutions that help eliminate some of that repetitive strain type injury potential from our operations by using advanced technology there. Also, the use of robotic inspections for tanks and things like that, where we can actually use some of the digital tools that are out there to do those inspections without putting people in harm's way, reducing a lot of the risk in the work. And we even see technology-wise more advanced data analytics that allow us to reduce some of the waste in our people effort around quality testing, for example, and other statistical approaches that can be used to reduce the amount or the frequency of repetitive testing or validation processes, assurance processes in general. So I think those digital twins as well, where we can use that technology to mimic and predict and gain insight into what we can do to be more effective and productive, drive efficiencies. And I think even analytics or insight-driven tools that look forward and say, okay, here's a scenario and here's the predicted outcome from that scenario, that we can get some insights into industry changes based on some of the trends that we see that help us be more prepared and resilient and adaptive to some of those changes in the environment that we're operating in.
Good. Sam, what about you?
So it's hard to speak after this wonderful summary by David and Kelly, but I'll try my best. So definitely, I mean, digital and data is a big thing now that we're seeing. I mean, nowadays, with the way data is, if you have good data structure, you're able to almost do your define and measure phase through a few clicks, through Power BI or whatever tool that you're using. So to me, at this day and age, the define and measure phase should be done very, very quickly. Obviously, once you know where the problem is, you still need to go to the shop floor and do your analyze phase and understand what the root cause is. But that's definitely a transformation that we're seeing, is that data analysis is done very, very quickly, very easily at the click of a buttons. And I think the younger generations are obviously definitely expecting that as well. And another, it's not much of a trend, but I would say transformation in the pharmaceutical industry is that I work in a contract manufacturing environment, and now we're seeing our customer and more demanding for continuous improvement initiatives. So, at the time in the pharma industry, it wasn't necessarily a must, or the idea was to make a good quality product, but the cost wasn't that important. It was just a good quality product delivered on time. Now customers more and more, they want a good quality product delivered on time, and they're very cost sensitive as well. So continuous improvement is no longer a luxury in our industry, but it's a must to survive. And that's a transformation that we're seeing in these current years.
Good. And I want to talk we were talking about future trends, and you mentioned, I think the three of you mentioned that digital transformation at the end is going to be one of these future trends. But I want to deep dive in this topic because I think that in today's digital age, organizations are increasingly leveraging digital technology and data analytics to enhance lean practices. So how are you harnessing digital transformation to drive continuous improvement? Kelly, could you share how digital technologies are influencing lean practices based on your experience?
Certainly. I can share Shell's experience has been that digital tools are absolutely essential. But we've also had to really reflect on what is the pace at which we can actually adopt those and effectively utilize those. And an element that we also look at is in the context of the value that the tool creates, and that value needs to be reflective of waste elimination, some sort of manual effort, and a productivity boost. Is it actually affordable at the end of the day? The tool development can be quite expensive, so you really have to look at it in terms of what is the payback for the value that you're creating. But the efficiencies that you can gain from using digital in the right ways around the insights, around the data analysis, the manual effort that's done today in spreadsheets, and get those data insights real time is really impactful. It's also quite a task to actually elevate your organization, in our experience, to be able to have the capability to do that in the context of their day-to-day. People get quite attached to the way that they look at information coming to them, and so changing the change management process for bringing digital tools into the day-to-day leader standard work for all levels of the organization has to be something you carefully consider in order for you to get the biggest payback from the digital effort.
Agree, completely agree. So David, how are organizations integrating these data analytics into their continuous improvement initiatives? That is linked with what Kelly was explaining.
It is a very good question. Something that we've been working on is, so we know we have a lot of information, a lot of data, right? In a lot of cases, might be useful, but it's not usable, or might be usable, but it's not useful. So having those teams that are able to dissect the data that you need and can help you actually improve not only products, but processes. Let me give you an example. Right now, we're working on a lot of projects on how to reduce proliferation of components, developing under similar platforms. So gathering that data and being able to use same platforms in different regions when possible, that's helping us drive a lot of improvements when it comes to developing new products and being able to launch product faster. And then on the other hand, for the people developing new processes, also being able to gather data from equipment, from machine, using integrations of PLCs, and then helping that to develop the right process for the right product, I think it's key, and it's helping us not only achieve performance targets, but also getting the most out of our piece of equipment and understanding to design better and new equipment as well with our partners. So I see that one as a big one. The other one is there's a lot of information coming from our customers, but how do we take it and how do we digest it so we can drive improvements for our products? That's super difficult in a lot of cases. So we have a small group relatively, right, working on trying to get that information. So again, when we're designing new products, how do we take in consideration what is value for our customers, right? We tend to also over-engineer products. So taking those things in consideration when developing and launching new products as well.
I think that maybe for the future, this could be even a problem, because now we are starting to collect more and more information, but we don't know what to do with that. So probably this is going to be also a problem for the future.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Sam, what digital transformation strategy has proven successful in driving continuous improvement in your experience?
So definitely, I mean, collecting information, I think a lot of companies now have been doing it and are doing it. But the idea is, how do you take that data and make it talk in a way that you can have actionable items to really drive results? And that's one thing we're doing at Delpharm, is that we try to integrate data into our daily management system. So you're able to, within a few click of a buttons on a screen that you have in your Obeya room, to see the results of the last 24 hours, which product performed better, which line performed worse. We're able to get the yield of our products and so on of our machines. So by integrating, I would say, data and new technology to the basics, of a continuous improvement and daily management system, it allows us to easily take the right decisions and really based on data. And also, one thing that we're also cautious about at Delpharm is, so digital transformation is good, but you always need to start by asking yourself the question, what is the business need for that digital transformation? Because a lot of times, people will propose to you, let's go ahead with this software or that software. Great, that's good. But what's the business need? What's the problem? What are you trying to solve with this software? And often when they have that reflection, they realize that the software solution really does not meet what they're trying to solve. So digital transformation is great. We just have to use it with great care, that it's not a gimmick, but it's truly solving a business problem or adding value to our customer or to ourselves as a company.
And I think that some companies are starting to, now everyone wants to digitalize your processes. So they want to do it even without knowing if they have a problem or an opportunity. And sometimes it's just they just want to digitalize even before doing an analysis of how should be the process for the future. So
exactly.
For me, it's always, you need to improve the process, and once it's improved, you have to bring technology to make it better and bring that technology to make this process to happen. But the first step is, let's do the analysis about how should be this process for the future, what is our situation now, how is the vision, and then let's integrate these solutions.
Exactly. The digital should make your process more efficient and simpler to use. So I think you couldn't have said it better, Victor. The process should work without the digital, but now the digital is just a step to make it easier and faster and more efficient and more accessible to everybody across the organization.
That's it. Thank you. Okay, next topic, sustainability and lean. So incorporating sustainability into lean practices is vital for organizations aiming to minimize environmental impact while maximizing operational efficiency. How do you incorporate sustainability principles into your lean initiatives? How does this contribute to overall organizational performance and competitiveness? So, David, could you discuss how sustainability is integrated into lean practices?
Definitely, yes. I honestly believe that there are two of them. Both of them are directly linked. So if we part ways from the simple definition of lean as the relentless search for waste elimination, right? I think we can definitely tie and identify a lot of opportunities when it comes to sustainability programs. Very early stages when you launch lean and sustainability, so relationship with suppliers, right? There's a lot of waste in cardboard, foam, plastic. So once you start introducing, for example, the use of reusable containers at a very tactical level, right? That's something that's definitely going to reduce the amount of waste. If we want to start talking about, performance enhancement metrics for the organization and the operation, once you start driving, improvements on the process that lead to labor productivity, then you can probably start talking about high energy consumption processes that don't have to run 24/7 all year long, right? Now you can start, thinking in those terms. And I can see why sometimes people have a tough time understanding how, but I think once we go back to, all right, so do we have waste? How do we minimize it? How do we reduce it? How do we eliminate it if we can? If we start asking ourselves those type of questions, we're going to be able to always find clear connection between lean and sustainability.
Good. Sam, how do you align sustainability goals with these lean initiatives?
Well, I think David answered it very well. You know, the core of lean is looking for waste and eliminating it. So now we often tend to ask the question of where the waste, and sometimes I've started to see initiatives such as, you know, we have too much high energy consumption at the site. There's some changes that we have to make. So these type of initiatives, you wouldn't see them, you know, years back, but now they're definitely more and more visible. And if you align the core concept of lean, of eliminating waste, to say I want to you know, reduce my energy consumption or my carbon footprint, the same principles will apply. You know, if you're looking in terms of a product itself, if you're reducing your scrap, well, then you're making less cartons, you're scrapping less elements, and definitely improving sustainability in that sense. So they go hand in hand, but honestly, David, you really nailed it with your answer. So I don't have much to add.
Thank you.
Good. So Kelly, I don't know if you have new ideas, but what role does sustainability play in companies' lean strategy, and how does it impact the bottom line?
I think they're inextricably linked, as David said. You know, by very definition, the relentless pursuit of waste is to look at how do you minimize these things, whether it's people, effort, resources, the consumables in your process. Shell's in a bit of a unique situation in the energy transition as we move away from carbon fuels, you know, and to more low carbon offerings, you know, away from into more electric vehicles, for example, and away from conventional oils. And the customer requirements and the environment in which we operate are dictating that. So it's absolutely pivotal to meet our business objectives, to be able to find low carbon solutions, the minimization and elimination of waste. It affects productivity and handling, but it also affects, you know, our relationship with the supplier, the economy, the economics of how we do work internal to the plant, using resources efficiently, and making sure that we're delivering to the customer in a responsible way based on the values of the society that we're a bigger part of.
And I think that this should be one of the top priorities for all the companies around the world. And I think that without doubt, this lean way of working is going to help to get better results. So yeah, good. So with that, the last topic for today is remote work and lean. Okay, because I think that after the COVID, this is still one of the trend topics. So as remote work becomes more and more prevalent, it's crucial to adapt lean practices to ensure productivity and collaboration remain high. So how are you adapting lean practices to maintain productivity, collaboration, continuous improvement, and this level of engagement of everyone? So Sam, how have you adjusted your lean practices to accommodate to this remote work?
So that's a good question and a touchy subject, I would say, Victor. So obviously, you know, after the pandemic, like most companies, our working from home policy has changed a little bit to allow more and more. But the truth is, we're a pharma manufacturer, right? We're here to make medication. We're here to be on site. We ask our people to be on site to run the machines every day. So there's a certain work that can be done from home, but there's a certain presence that you need to be on site, on the shop floor, seeing what work is being done, seeing where the waste is, that cannot be eliminated. So we allow some flexibility from work from home, as we would say. But I think if you work in manufacturing, it's very, very difficult to adapt. You know, there's no replacement to being on the shop floor and seeing where the true work happens. And And then, so if you're working, let's say on some data analytics or an Excel file, and you're at home doing your thing, that's fine. But if you're doing a Kaizen event, you're trying to improve a specific process, you need to be on site. And so far, I haven't found the solution for it, but I'm open to hear what you guys have to say about this.
It's not easy because I think that one of the principles is go to the shop floor, go to the Gemba, right? So it's not always easy, but as you said, maybe we still need to reflect about how to keep improving this. So Kelly, what strategies have you implemented to ensure lean practices are effective in a remote work setting?
Very similar to Sam in terms of the impact after COVID. Our assets are mainly manufacturing focused, although we do have some support functions that can be done remotely without impact. But when it comes to supporting the manufacturing environment, you need people to be at Gemba. From a safety perspective, you need to support people day to day with the dilemmas that they face, and that cannot be done remotely. And so it's really about making sure you have a fit for purpose balance, depending on the type of work that you do, and that balance, affords you a simple approach, that it has a disciplined approach, and it drives performance in the right direction. We've seen lots of studies that say that remote work and work flexibility motivates people in their job, and that there are a lot of benefits, but it has to be fit for purpose for the type of work that you're doing, and generating value as a result of that arrangement.
Good. David, what are your thoughts about this possibility of remote work and how you combine with the lean practices?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hard, right? There's going to be roles that will ask us to be there in person. Now, I've have experience, roles where I'm supporting sites around the globe. For those, I personally like to use different strategies, right? So my last role, I had people in Europe, in Mexico, in Brazil, and the US. So simple, we would have a quick touch base in the morning, right? The other thing that we would make sure, or I would make sure as leader, is being very transparent, clear, try to be as concise as possible, right? Because when you're working remotely, you can go on and read an email, but you want to be concise, so you want to get to the point. Especially English not being my first language, sometimes I tend to over communicate or over articulate. The other thing that I usually think about is how do we leverage the tools, the resources we have at our disposals, right? So we have people in a group that are going across different regions or different plants. So making sure we're all connected. So if you're going to Spain next week, and I need something from that site, so I'll connect with you. Victor, can you please help me with this? When you're there, can you go talk to Jose and make sure that you touch base on this? So having those connections, expanding your network and work your network, I think it's crucial and critical when you're in a remote work environment. And I'm gonna go back to every time we get a chance, I still touch base in person. I still like to do that, right? Every time we're in the same place, connecting face to face, and even though we're face to face right now. But face to face in person, I still think that is not replaceable. Personally, we can make the most out of it, in my opinion, but I think that is still my preference.
I have the same feeling, but I think that at the end, this remote work maybe bring to the companies more options. But I still think that there is no one solution for everything, for everyone. But I think that we need to still think about how to, with these new challenges, how can we still improve the way that we are working with that. And I think that this is one of the challenges for the companies for the future. Good. So Before we close, could each of you share a final sentence summarizing your vision about future of Lean? And Kelly, if you want to start.
Sure. I would say our future vision for Lean is to, relentlessly remove waste from the system in a way that we adapt and build resilience to the changing environment that we're operating in. And we do that with a lens to simplicity, performance, and discipline. And I think that's how we will achieve value at the end of the day, is to keep those things top of mind in everything that we do.
Great. Thank you. Sam?
Well, I mean, definitely the future trend for Lean is that it's definitely here to stay. I think in this environment and age, you have to be competitive. You need to be relentless at looking for waste. You mentioned the word that I like a lot, Kelly, discipline, rigor and discipline. That is, a core key for Lean to stay alive and to function well. I mean, if we look at the most performant organizations such as the military or people that do sports, the one thing they have in common is discipline, right? Discipline and training and rigor. And that's why they become a very high performant organization. So I think if we manage to get rigor, simplicity, and discipline, as Kelly said, it will become it is essential for Lean to strive, and it will definitely be here to stay.
And I think that this is at the end continuous improvement, right? Everyone,
Yes.
every day,
Yes.
in every area, but one step further every day.
Mm-hmm.
Good. David.
So yeah, you guys both hit in the head, but so I'm going to give you a little perspective just for Kohler. So what's the vision? And we have a very simple tagline. So every team, every day. And this is about making sure that everyone in the organization all the time, looking for ways not only to do the work, but to improve the work. And that is seen as not, something else we have to do, but this is how we do things. We are still very early in our Lean journey. We, like everybody else, we keep learning a lot, right? We keep trying. And that's what we want to keep doing. We want to keep having open minds. We want to keep developing our people, developing, our partners, and just keep driving this journey, because we do believe this is the way that we're gonna take us to the next level.
Great. So thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us today. We are grateful to our panelists for sharing your valuable insights on Lean methodologies and continuous improvement. Let's take away the lesson learned and keep driving innovation in our organizations. With that, we conclude today's discussion, and I'd like to conclude with a final quote. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And this principle can also apply to all the companies. So we appreciate your time, and we look forward to future discussions. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks so much.